economic socialism. So I adhere also to socialism. I know the socialist economic system is the only system that will solve the unjustness that's to be found in a capitalist system.
Do you think that black Americans can continue, do you believe that black Americans can continue under the current governmental system that we have here in the United States today? Or do you think that some sort of upheaval will have to take place and changes be made?
Well, outside of the government structure, systematically speaking, there must be an upheaval. The capitalist system is in grave crisis. And every time the capitalist system finds itself in crisis, its solution is war. It comes out of it by war. Today, that's going to be a little bit difficult. The peoples around the world, their consciousness has risen. Therefore, they are fighting back. And in America, those who will be called to go and fight, their consciousness has also risen because of Vietnam notwithstanding. So that it will become a little bit more difficult, and the problems are going to rise. And the only way to solve the problems is by taking away from the rich that which they have no right to have, and equally distributing it among all the people in the society.
Martin Luther King was disturbed somewhat by your movement, and he felt that possibly he was afraid that it would cause what was referred to back then as a white backlash. In view of the, and now we never really did see a white backlash, I don't think, in my own opinion, during the 60s and 70s. But now, suddenly in this country, we do have a conservative movement, and people, Democrats are changing to Republicans and this sort of thing. Do you think that there's a possibility that there might be a delayed reaction to some of the things that blacks did during the 60s?
Well, I think that there was quite a reaction. It continues. Of course, my disagreement with Dr. King on this point, though minute, was that there's no such thing as a backlash. What there is that we're under racism, and we come to struggle against it. Certainly, as you struggle against any opponent, the opponent stiffens his resistance. And if the opponent happens to be someone oppressing you, they stiffen their oppression. If we have a plantation and there are slaves and the slaves never try a slave revolt, there's no need to tighten up security. But if the slaves try a slave revolt, you can be sure that security is going to be tightened. So consequently, when you struggle against oppression, it is to be expected that those who are oppressing you are going to tighten up the screws of oppression. Dr. King's, his real point was that what was happening was that with the Black Power slogan, it seemed to have isolated whites, and he felt that this isolation of whites, which could be a buffer zone, would just leave us out there isolated by ourselves.
What, you spoke to black students about the history of blacks in, the future of blacks in America. What kinds of things did you say to them? What kind of advice did you give them?
Well, the first is that we need to be more conscious of our responsibility as human beings, and certainly as Africans. And in order to do this, it calls for us properly understanding our history. Our history in this country, our history in the world, has not been written by us in the first instance. Even the best meaning those outside of our race cannot properly comprehend the historical forces which we're up against. Therefore, one is for us to properly understand our history. Once we understand our history, it will give us a guide and map out the path that we must take. Certainly, we have to be organized. We are an unorganized people everywhere across the country, totally disorganized. Consequently, we must become organized, and we must have an organization which we run, which we direct, which we control, which we finance, and to which we give ideological direction, which is crucial. For us, of course, as Pan-Africanists, no African anywhere in the world will ever be free until all of Africa is free. Therefore, our primary occupation is the liberation of Africa and its unification under socialism. This, therefore, is the future direction of the struggle.
If this is achieved, if Africa becomes united and becomes under a total black rule situation, what then happens to the more than 13 million blacks in America? How do they relate to your Pan-African theory?
The conditions will materially change. In the first place, now Africans the world over will have to be respected. If your home is not in order, certainly you cannot expect respect living in somebody else's house. So the relations will change, and the relationship with Africans themselves will change. We say one of the biggest problems that an oppressed people face is this problem of consciousness. And consciousness is a result of awareness and ability to understand things. Africans all over America think that Africans have never done anything and cannot do anything. Consequently, once Africa is unified and socialist, being one of the richest continents on the face of the earth, should be one of the most powerful. Consequently, their relationship vis-a-vis Africa will change, and vis-a-vis other citizens of the world, other nations and races of the world.
Okay. What then should, in your opinion, should Black Americans do to help to organize? In other words, how do you advocate they organize? Should they organize along political lines, form some sort of religion? How do you think it should be done?
Of course, as a revolutionary, we must say along political lines. This is even Greek philosophy. Aristotle himself was to say, and I quote, man by nature is political, and all animals are political. Of course, everything is political, whether we know it or not. Where you go to school, what is taught in school, even how one goes to the bathroom is a political question. Consequently, for us, there must be political organization.
I've heard people predict that as conditions liberalize throughout the world, and of course we've gone back to being more conservative, so maybe these predictions aren't very correct now, but that eventually in the world we will have a single race, that the races will eventually work out problems and interracial marriages will take place and there will be one race in the world. Do you think that'll ever come true?
It's quite possible. Of course, it's a long way off, but anyway, I don't see any opposition to it. Before it occurs, however, each race will have to properly make its contribution to humanity. Consequently, the Africans will have to make their proper contribution, and it has to be then, of course, and really on an equal footing, not as it is today, where the Africans have nothing to say about it, but it's for your good, and therefore we've decided it for you.
Okay. How do you feel about organizations, religious organizations? I was watching television the other night that move into Africa and then ask for money to donate for food for the Africans that are along the edge of the Sahara Desert, for instance. How do you feel about those movements? Are they good? Are they bad? Do you like them to do that? Would you rather they didn't do that? How do you feel about that?
Well, of course, any organization doing good must be supported, even if one doesn't see the good as a priority for oneself. One cannot not good. And certainly religious organizations really need to be in the forefront. You know, religions came into being to fight injustice and to bind men and women to just behavior and to proper behavior. And therefore, religious organizations must always be in the forefront fighting against injustices. This is why I have so much appreciation for King as a Christian. Because as a Christian, he really understood Christianity and was on the front lines fighting against injustice. Unfortunately, most of the Christians in America do not understand the responsibility of Christianity, and some even use Christianity as a means of making a living and gathering more money. But Christian organizations and religious organizations must be in the forefront of doing good for the people. That's their responsibility.
Kwame, thank you very much for talking with me.
Thank you.
Through at 13 minutes.
Good.